Alright, been cleaning up out here. I push the record button. It's been a while. Got my bench cleaned off a little bit here. Got the springs and retainers out there to put these heads together. I was going to send those out and have them cut. I think I'm going to try to run them like they are with some copper gaskets. And I got a 1600 next coming up, single port I'm going to build. I have a friend that just recently bought a bug, and that's the motor he has, so we'll go through that. What else is going on? Got this back together, the Pontiac. Waiting on a distributor for this. So I got that bad boy back together. And got to bolt these valve covers down, adjust the valves and stuff. I'm going to prime the oil system since it hadn't run in a while. So I'm going to make a primer out of this old distributor that caught on fire. I took that all apart. I could probably rebuild this with a new stator and a module and a vacuum advance, but I don't know if I can put a Chevrolet unit in that in a Pontiac. Or it has to be a Pontiac. I have enough parts here to build it if I could use Chevrolet stuff, but if not, I'm just going to make a primer out of it. I found a couple of distributors online that were pretty cheap, like this, ready to run. If I have to, I can get a Minnie Mouse. I can get one for an MSD. Not a really big deal. Got to bolt the headers up. I don't know how you Pontiac guys deal with that crap. We'll get those headers bolted up. Got to run a fuel line to the back of the car and an electric pump because this car had a Holly pump on it that I stole for the Nova, which is over there. So I'm going to have to buy a pump for this now and a filter. And they were using the factory line, pulling it out of the tank, which never works out very good. So I'm going to probably just throw a fuel cell back there for now, and we'll put some decent line on it and a pump and a filter. And this has no fuel pump on the motor. I guess I could just go buy a pump too, but I'll just put the electric pump back on and set it up the way they had it. But I was able to use pretty much everything over. Got to send the alternator out and have it rebuilt. And I painted this pulley and it looks like Fido's ass, so I'm going to sandblast that and try that again. But this is pretty decent, but it's draggy, and it looks like it got a little heat on it. So rather than take a chance, I'll take it out to my buddy and have him go through it and make it look nice, and then we can bolt all that shit up and fire this thing up once the distributor gets here. That'll be cool. This will probably run before the Nova does. So got this done the other day. Somebody pay for this motor, so I put this together. This was what they wanted, so that's what they got, and there it is. The CNC ported cylinder heads and manifolds on there. Brand new set of 48 IDAs. That's my carburetor of choice. The Parter rockers with a 650 upgrade on the valve springs. The cam is 609. I think it's 270 at 50. It's a big bitch. But yeah, it's full flow. It's got a bird cover on it. It's plumbed. It's got a sump. And should run pretty good. We're going to put this in Noel's car. That's what the guy wanted. So we're going to throw this in a Shutterbug. We got to put a tranny in it because we broke the tranny. We blew the nose cone off. We've never done that before, and we never took the tranny out of the car. So we need to. He's going to fix the tranny, and then we'll put this motor in there. Got to order a header. Get an 1 7/8" header, and I probably won't put any sheet metal on it for the race car. We'll just have the race fans on it, and I'll do a block off on the oil cooler there, and we'll run it pretty much like it sits, minus that 09. I'll have to put some sort of an MSD in there to be compatible with the electronics in the car. Most all my stuff has MSDs on them. I really love the MSD. It lets you jet the car properly. A lot of times if you have a factory ignition system, you can only burn so much fuel, and when you start adding fuel and compression, you gotta give it a little better ignition system. So the compression is pretty high on this one, a lot higher than I would normally build this kind of motor, but it's basically a mild race motor. I guess it's about 11 to 1, 10.5. It's up there. I would say it's probably 11 to 1 static and 10.5 running. So it's should run really well. But that's done. I got the core support for the Nova. I got to make a decision on this, on what I want to do, whether I want to paint it body color of the car or black. And get that done. I got to cut this hood in and this deck lid for my Nova. And that's where I'm at with this thing. To order a carburetor for this now. I'm just going to buy a brand new 850 and put it on the Nova. And then I'll run this little 800 vacuum secondary on this Pontiac over here. So I figured I'd give the Nova the new carburetor. So that's what's going on. Not a lot. Got this jacked up last week. I think we did a little video on that since it's been up in the air. But I haven't done a lot on that. Need to pull that out and freshen that up. But this is the next motor that we'll be building right here. I just got hooked on this car. Here we go. This is a single port. I can't see. AH case for people that like to know that number. It says single port heads. These are mildly ported. Probably going to do a little more work on the cylinder heads, upgrade the valve springs a little bit. We're going to put a camshaft in this time. Little C35. It had a stock cam in it last time. I didn't like the way the motor performed. I basically tried to build a stock motor. And I moved the head trimmers. The problem was this crankshaft. This is a brand new cranking rods. Believe it or not, it doesn't look like it because it's all rustical from sitting back here. But this is a cast crank. It's one of those Brazilian Rocky Mountain Motor Works, and these are cast rods. And it wiped the bearing out in one trip to South Carolina. The main bearings were still in the motor. It was still drivable. It made it there and back, but the oil light was flickering when I got back home. And when I took it apart, the center main was trashed. And the rest of the bearings looked pretty good, but the center main was no good, no bueno. More than likely that's a balance issue. The motor was sort of shitty. Wasn't really nice and smooth, you know. Did get us there and back, 70, 80 miles an hour every once in a while in the bus. But rather than milk an old motor, I took it apart. I think I had the case line board, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe I am mistaken. I don't know, but this case is in pretty good shape. It's got one insert in the strainer there. But we'll get this on the bench, get everything cleaned up, and lay this out. And I got these pistons here for the big block. I've been thinking about upgrading that, throwing these in there. I don't know. These are forged, a little more compression, a little more fun. Well, that's what's happening here. Not a whole lot. Trying to get cleaned up for the party. Got Neil coming here soon. He was telling Andrew he's getting excited the other day. So it's cool. Organized this cabinet. Got all the new stuff on this shelf in here. So I got everything sort of organized, semi-organized. We need to do the other shelves. Got a few drive gears there and stuff. Trying to get all the parts consolidated. Dug all this stuff up the other day. Little drive geared kits, slingers, bolts, all that stuff. I got enough stuff to build 5 or 6, 7 motors. So I'm going to build a few engines and put them on the shelf. I'm going to buy some nice shelving from Lowe's. They have a nice, it's almost like a wire rack, but it holds 2,000 pounds per shelf. And I'm going to change this room in here soon because I want to try to have this done before I have my surgery. But I want to get somebody to drywall this in here or close this off And I'm going to build a little motor room in here. And then if I want, I can just put a paint booth over on this side, you know, or just close this off and do the same thing that I did over here. But I don't paint too much anymore. I don't really plan on painting a whole lot. You know, I got stuff of my own that I need to paint, but I do plan on doing a little motor stuff. So if I could consolidate all my stuff in here. I picked up a flow bench. I need to pick up an old super flow bench, and I want to put that in here. And I want to get a little dyno down there and put by the fan so I can break my motors in and run them in and stuff. So I'm looking for one of those right now. But yeah, I want to get a couple, you know, some equipment in here and just do the Volkswagen thing in here and designate this one room for that. And I can consolidate all my new parts in here and AC this and make it a little sweeter for what I want to do. But I got to get rid of some of these cars first, of course, and then I'm going to have to do a major cleanup basically in the whole building. I like to just empty everything out of the building and pressure wash it. It's just gotten pretty shitty. So that's where we're at. That's what we're doing. Got this stuff here to go through today. A lot of this stuff has gotten shitty from just being out in the open and exposed to the dust from the paint and body stuff. That's another reason to stop doing that here and just consolidate and try to focus my attention on the motor stuff that I like to do. I think this is more conducive area for that than paint anyway. I don't like to paint here because, you know, I got neighbors that shit goes on, and I've got plenty of friends with body shops and paint booths that I can use, so there really is no reason to have this. I had it when I was doing some used car stuff, and it came in really helpful for a while, but I'm not doing that, so I don't need that anymore, and I think it would better suit me as an engine room. And I'm going to get some good equipment in there so I can start building some stuff the way I want to build it and machine it the way I want to machine it and stuff like that. So that's what we're up to. Somebody wanted to take a look at this 049. This is a Rebmaster 049 casting, and I was telling somebody I thought these were pretty decent, and I understand that these are hard to get. I think DRP sells this same head, but it is a pretty sweet casting as far as right out of the cast. You can see how nice the combustion chamber is there. Nothing's been done to that. These things you see are really sweet. They're real consistent, and they got a nice squish area on both sides of the piston there if you like to run a tight deck. And you know, they have all the supports in the back of the cylinder head where they're supposed to be. They actually have airflow through the head also, which is important because a lot of cylinder heads they recreate don't have that. And this head has a redesigned intake port, and I don't know if you can see the valve guide still has a nice boss around it for support, but there's no material on top of the guide, and it gives it a straight shot to the valve there. Normally that's what you spend a lot of time on a Volkswagen casting, creating this area here. This is where the power is at towards the spark plugs. That's where the oval port came from. But anyway, you could probably port these and do a pretty nice job on them. They have a really large intake port, and they have a pretty good deck. They even have the boss for the spring back here, which a lot of the castings don't have. And they come with a double spring if you order it that way, of course. I don't know how much travel that would be good for. I'm suspecting right at about, you know, probably 400 safely. Maybe a little over that. But if you wanted to get more carried away with the valve lift, you'd have to go to a longer valve so you could set your installed height a little taller. But these are pretty sweet. If you can pick a set of these up, I'm going to keep this set and probably put them on a new motor that I build. Pretty good for 1915. These are cut for 94s. It's a 42 millimeter intake valve with a 37 exhaust, or 35. 37.5. So anyway, I've seen those for sale on the Samba. I wouldn't hesitate to buy those and use them. I bought a couple different castings that I just wouldn't use and sent back, and these are pretty sweet. These are real close to the Volkswagen quality. There are some things like right here, you gotta grind these. They inserted the 10 holes, and the insert's sticking up a little bit. So you know, it's like anything. You gotta play with it. They do have the small spark plugs, which is super nice. It gives you a lot more material from between the intake and the exhaust valve there, and it, you know, promotes it not to crack so much. That's the issue with the big spark plug. But you can imagine if this was, you know, a 12 millimeter hole, or a 14 millimeter, excuse me, you know, it'd be pretty close to the intake valve. So by shrinking the plug size, it lets them put a bigger valve in and have more area around the plug so it doesn't crack as much. That's another thing I really like about these heads is the way the plug is in the combustion chamber. It's not raised up, or you know, you don't have to smooth that out much at all. It's super sweet. You could probably polish these up and take this texture off, you know. No need though. It would run really good just like that. Plus these are solid too in the deck. So these are good for cutting open like this and not moving the head. A lot of heads are not solid there. Anyway, getting off on the ramble on there. Anyway, let me get to the cleaning and stuff. I drove the 65 Bug the other day. Somebody was asking me, I guess they watched the video and somebody said they had a 67 and it wasn't a 67, and they were wanting to know how you tell the difference. And anytime you got the glass over the headlights there, it's either a 66 or earlier. 67 had a head more like that, headlight like that. I'll show you the race car. It's a completely different headlight. Completely different animal. 67 is pretty unique to itself. The car is quite a bit different. Oh, here, fender's over here off the car. And here's the 67 headlight here. This is what it will look like. It'll actually have well, this will be chrome instead of black, but it'll have a bezel around the light, and it'll just have the light exposed. It won't be a glass, under glass as I call them. Usually that's 66 and earlier. A lot of times you need to really look the car over and see if the title's been messed with. And usually on a convertible, that's the case. They get changed around a lot and swapped around. If I go to look at a convertible, if I go to look at a convertible for somebody, I always check the chassis really good and make sure it's the proper number. What is it, Mr. Black? You want to make sure your tag number meets up with your chassis number, and I'll show you what a lot of people like to do. And I know in Puerto Rico this is such a problem. I've sold some cars over there, and they inspect this when the car comes in off the boat to make sure it hasn't been stolen or the number's been changed. So this is something that you can check yourself very easily. But here's the chassis number right here on the tunnel, and that's always the important number to check. That will give you your correct year and date of manufacturing. But a lot of times what I've been seeing lately on some nicer cars that people want good money for, this has been cut out. You have to really put your hand under here and check and make sure that this number has not been welded in, because the DMV will. And they're starting to check it here in Florida, and I'm sure they're checking it other places. But they actually put a little mirror in there and see if it's been welded in. And you see quite a bit of them where they you know, steal a car and they'll put a number off a number car and they'll weld it in there. So you can go on the Samba and take your numbers off your chassis and your tag, and the Samba will give you a good database of all the different manufacturing plants where the car was made. Pretty much will tell you what day it was made, what time it was made, and everything. But 66 in back have the glass over the headlight. 67 just has a regular bulb in it, and the deck lid's a little bit different shape too. So you can go online and Just go on YouTube and type in 67 bug, and you'll find quite a few of them for sale on there. But yeah, I drove this the other day. I need to wash this thing up, clean it up. I was just talking to Michael Freddy on the phone. He bought a 62, and this is actually a little 40 horse here, and this one, or 1500, I'm not sure. It runs pretty decent. I never have looked at the case. This number is never important to me. This case has been replaced and that number's been stamped in there. That's good. I like to see that. This was a Volkswagen rebuild. You can see the insignia there with a D. That's a replacement engine from Volkswagen. And that's why it has that number stamped into the block like that, rather than an AH or a, you know, typical number. I always tell people when they ask me, hey, I've got this number on my block, I always say, well, it's better if it has no number, because if it has no number, that means it's a new case. And I like that. I like to start with a fresh case. You have a lot less cycles on it, and you got to remember how old these cars are now, how old these parts are. It gets harder and harder to use them over and over again. This bus is this was a low dollar case back in the day when I bought this. This is a brand new engine case. You can see it has no number on it. And this is a Mexican single oil relief case. It's a sort of rare piece, but it's worked really good in this bus. Somebody asked about Cadron carburetors and having a problem with them flooding out. And a lot of times that's from the motor running really hot. It boils the gas. The new gas boils at about 170 to 190. It's a little lower than the old fuel because of the alcohol content. So you can put like a fuel additive in to slow the burn rate of the fuel down, which will it'll raise the ignition point or the boiling point of the fuel with an additive. Another thing, if you're having a needle and seat issue, you can take the needle and seat out and put one extra fiber washer under the needle and seat assembly, and it'll lower the float a little bit, and normally that fixes any kind of issues. You can also adjust the float by bending the tab. I like to leave the tab alone and use the fiber washer, and I just select the right thickness washer for the appropriate amount that I want to lower the float. But you don't need a real high float level with these. They fill pretty quick, and I've never run them out of gas, you know. Normally a Cadron motor will only turn about 6,500, depending on, you know, what's been done to the carburetors and stuff. But anyway, that's what's going on with the old bus here. I just thought I'd show you that on the cases. The new cases definitely have no identification number on them. They'll still have the AS41 designation on the side, or AS21, or whatever the case may be. You'll see the number right there. This is a Brazilian case. This is an AS21, which typically an AS21 case is found in a fuel injection car. And the alloy of the case is a little suitable for more heat. You know, the fuel injection bugs ran a little hotter. So I like those cases. And I know a lot of people like to use either the AS21 or they're doing a bigger motor. I don't like this motor because it's just a single valve relief, but other than that, that's the only drawback, I guess. It is full float. Got a bird cover on it and stuff, so I've never had an issue. Anyway, I need to get to work, do something. Got the boat out here. It's looking pretty good. I got to pressure wash the trailer, get all the compound off of here, and roll some white paint on this. I'm just going to roll it to eliminate the mess. And I got to bolt my new tires on still, and I still need to go get my seats and some carpet. I hate spending money though, so I'm having a hard time buying seats. Those still work pretty good. There's this funky shit falling out of them. My wife doesn't like that, so the new seats are made out of ABS plastic, and they'll last a little longer. So let me get to work. I got a lot of shit to do. I got a pressure washer around here. I gotta clean my son's mess up. I asked him about 100 times to clean this shit up, and he refuses. So I gotta do something with this. I figure I'll just lay it all in his bed. He'll get the drift. But his shit's done in the room. He's waiting on a few different things. I haven't showed that motor in a while. Let me show that. I'll do my little extended video thing here, and people can laugh because I'm never done when I say I'm done. We'll take a look at this bad boy. Holy shit, it's dark in here. It's like a cave. Can you guys even see anything? Here. This kid's a vampire, dude. Vampire kid. There we go. Give you a little light, son. Let it in. All right, anyway, here we go. Got the 1100cc injectors on there, the aftermarket fuel rail. So you put some mounts on there since the last time you guys have seen it. Got the oil sump, extended sump on there for extra oil, because that's what kills these bad boys. And I got the turbo all mounted up there. Got the header. It's pretty much ready to go. I forget what we're waiting on now. Something. But oh, the ATI balancer for the front of the motor here. He had an aluminum balancer on it, and it didn't do a very good job at taking the harmonics out of the motor. So we're going to go with a fluid dampener this time. And I think that's about it. This thing's about ready. He changed the wiring harness. So he sold his wiring harness, and now he's buying a race harness. And he got his dash flocked, and that looks pretty good. I'll show you that on another video because it's all the way in the North 40. I gave him the garage out back to put all his shit in, or the shed, and he doesn't like it back there too much, but he's getting used to it. So that's what's going on with this project. Hopefully that'll be done soon. And I know he's been really wanting to get into the garage, but I want to get the Ventura done first. So till that's done, there won't be no 240s in the garage until there's only one Ventura welded back together. So I think we're looking for a welder right now, and I've narrowed it down to a couple. I'm looking at that Lincoln 210 or 211, has a spool gun option. It's on sale this month. Looks pretty good. Might get that. Plus it's a dual range machine. It'll work on 110 or 220. So I like that. So we might go with something like that. And yeah, that's what's going on here. Got the office back here. I'll sit back here and do some YouTubers here. Check that out for the morning. And yeah, continue to clean. A couple more weeks, Neil. Are you getting excited yet?